Yo, 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 welcome back to the BC Sports Pod. Just two bros smarter than the average Joe trying to get our word out there. Um, gonna be probably a quick episode. Um,
Yeah, why, Owen?
so, episode 9, we are on the ninth episode of the pod. That's over 2 months of recording.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
finally recorded a whole episode, an hour and 30-minute episode, by the way, longest episode ever, with no audio of my own. So it was just
No.
me lip talk, like literally lip syncing the whole time. And we even had a guest on the show. You know how sad and disappointed I am that that guest isn't going to be on the show?
Yeah.
It's sad, but we'll have him on next week. Make it up. Next week will also be a fun one, but sorry for probably not the highest energy episode, but we are going to go through a quick recap of this week in sports, a little bit of NASCAR. We'll also do our picks for the week, and then go through each one of our brackets. So start out with a little bit of this week in sports. Conference tournament winners. Power Six. We have UConn absolutely dominating. Illinois beating an Ohio State team to the refs. Then going on and beating Wisconsin in the Big Ten tournament. Iowa State dominating the Big 12, won by I think 28 in their final game. Auburn dominant in the SEC. NC State, surprise team of the week, wins 5 games in Washington. That is more than the Wizards have won in Washington this year. And then Oregon wins the last Pac 12 championship. Bad conference, I'm not going to lie. Pac 12, very underwhelming last year. I'm glad you guys are going away. I know Pac 12 faithful would argue with me, but glad you're done.
Yeah. And then we got some football stuff. Last week, we covered the very beginning of free agency, so now we are going to cover some of the stuff that happened after Monday of last week to now. Justin Fields was traded to the Steelers for, I think, a sixth-round pick in 2025. That could
Robbery.
go a fourth-round pick. Absolute robbery. I wouldn't have even considered that trade if I was the Bears. I know I could have gotten him for more, but apparently not. So, um, he's gonna be behind Russell Wilson. We'll see if he learns anything or grows as a QB in Pittsburgh. Speaking of the Bears, we have Keenan Allen, signed with the Bears, or I guess traded. What did they
Robbery.
get for that?
I think it was a fourth round pick they traded him for.
So the Bears get Keenan Allen for just a fourth round pick. That another in itself is a robbery. Uh, the Chargers have been selling because they've been so over the cap. They just needed to get rid of one of their guys, and Keenan Allen was the one that took the hit on
Yeah,
that.
and keeping a Khalil Mack there and Joey Bosa restructuring his contract helped free up uh, some cap. But it's not going to be great. But speaking of cap, by that I mean the contract. Calvin Ridley to the Titans. Huge contract. I think it's $92 million. I think it is about the same as what they would not give A.J. Brown just 2 years ago.
Yep.
And then they bring in a guy with not as much skill as A.J. Brown, Calvin Ridley, good wide receiver, but Titans pick him up. Next one, Tyron Smith to the Jets. I don't have much to say about this.
Oh, I do. Good job, Jets, for actually getting a piece that will help you on your offense instead of just getting Packers wide receivers that have been 10 years past their prime. You actually get a line or an offensive lineman that could help Aaron Rodgers not blow another Achilles.
Yeah. Big one. Derrick Henry. We rumored last week. This was not a rumor from ours. This was a rumor that was circulating a lot around social media websites. But Derrick Henry did not indeed go to the Cowboys. The Cowboys have still gone all of free agency without signing a single player. And Derrick Henry decides to end in Baltimore, a team that has knocked him out of the playoffs several times in his career. And now I think they have the biggest running back room, because I'm throwing the biggest backfield in football.
Yeah, definitely a good pickup for how cheap Henry came. Um, they're obviously going to try to run it back. They actually lost a pretty decent amount of people in free agency, so
Yeah.
they're going to have to hit the draft to try to fill those spots, but they should be
They have
just as good as they
drafted
were last year.
defensively really well the last
Yeah.
5 years. So,
they should be fine. They'll be back. We have Joe Mixon. He was released by the Bengals, or was he traded? No. So he
Um,
was traded.
he was traded.
He was
It
gonna
was
get
supposed to
released,
be
and then he got
released, and
traded.
then they traded
Yeah.
him.
So he got traded to the Texans for probably a late day draft pick. I guess you're getting something out of this. I don't think Joe Mixon is great, but I guess the Texans running back room hasn't been great either. So it's a pickup for you guys. You got Jerry Jeudy to the Browns. This one was announced last week, even before we recorded the podcast. I don't even know how we didn't talk about that, especially because the bias of me that's around. I think
Yeah.
Ellen was just doing the Bengals bias and trying to get that out there. But um, for what they got for him, I can't remember right now. But I mean, all the trades that have been happening for good players as of now has just been late draft picks, and it's weird. Like I've seen like 5 players that should at least get traded for a second get traded for like a fifth.
Hmm.
So I don't know what's up with the free agency this year, or just anything going on this free agency. But yeah, the Browns just got another wide receiver. They needed it pretty bad. And then Patrick Queen, Ravens player,
It's a
going
crazy
to
one.
the Steelers
Yeah.
willingly signed a deal, and then has the audacity to call Ravens fans a bunch of crybabies when they get upset that they went to the rival. Um, I don't know why you would do this. It's kind of weird, but I guess he wants to be the villain, and we'll see if that pays off for him. Speaking
uh,
of,
Paying
I mean,
off, because I don't think
yeah,
this one's going to pay off at all. Austin Eckler decides over his own will to sign with the Washington Commanders. Fantasy owners, he might actually not do bad this year, but that's if he even plays 17 games because that team is
he's
so
too
bad.
old.
That team is so bad. I really don't understand this move at all. I think he got definitely more money going to the Commanders than a contender would have probably given him. But yeah, yeah, it's pretty bad.
He regressed a lot last year. I don't think a contender would have taken him.
Hmm.
Um, Even on the Chargers, like some of the stuff he was doing was just he looked like he was just old. Like he was getting outran by people who shouldn't be outrunning you as a running back. So I mean maybe he'll get rejuvenated in Washington, but looks like his career is probably twilighting.
Yeah.
Um,
Give me the
we
Kyrie
have
recap, bro.
yeah. So the Kyrie recap. So last night the Nuggets and the Mavs played, and it was tied with 2.8 seconds left, and Kyrie got the inbound pass and kind of skyhooked it, left-handed floater over Nikola Jokic, which is an absolute unit of a man, and sinks it in at the buzzer to beat the Nuggets. I think it was at home as well, so that must have been nice for everyone in the Mavs arena to see. Um, Even Kyrie was a disbelief of it. It was a really crazy shot, to be honest with you. It just looked like it was never going to go in, but he somehow made it work. Speaking of, it shouldn't have happened. VCU and Duquesne, they
Dude,
played in a
insane.
conference tournament. Um, it was just a normal game. It was like 12 minutes left in the second half, and the stadium they were playing, or the arena that they were playing in, accidentally let off the confetti, and the players and the announcers and the fans were going nuts. It was actually pretty funny just watching everyone like just get overly excited from just some confetti that was falling down. I just thought that was funny because I saw that I laughed a little bit.
Yeah, that's a game too that Duquesne won against a VCU team that always plays really well in March and can go win games in March. And it kind of knocked. I mean, obviously, it knocked VCU out of March Madness. So that's the confetti might have been the turning point there for Duquesne just to finish the business. You know.
Yep. And speaking of knocking out the competition,
Yeah.
the Celtics continue to push their lead over the Eastern Conference. They are now 9 games ahead of anyone else. I think the Bucks is the second seed right now. The Celtics have not showed any sign of slowing down. At this rate, they're going to at least win 65 games. And they're definitely going to be the team to beat coming into this year's playoffs.
Yeah. And with that, the Eastern Conference is wide open from that 6 through 10 spot. Anyone can get. A lot of people fighting for that. But when it comes to the Western Conference, it's a whole different ball game, dude. Right now in the play-in, we have Lakers, Warriors, and Kings. No, Mavs and Suns that are all fighting for play-in spots. That is insane to think that this play-in tournament that we have seen over the last couple years that hasn't really been that fun to watch now has 4 teams with star players all over the board, all fighting for those 2 last playoff spots. I think it's going to be fun to watch, and I think it's something that definitely Adam Silver could not even have dreamed of this happening when he added the play-in tournament.
Speaking of fun to watch, the UFL is starting in about 2 weeks. It's finally going to give us a taste of some of the football we've been missing the last few months. I guess not even a few months. It's almost been just 1 month.
Yeah.
Time's going slow and fast at the same time. It feels like the NFL season was over years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited to see the merger of the USFL and the XFL. I think there's going to be a lot of good football to watch there. And I got to pick a team because I haven't yet. So
DC Defenders all the way, baby.
Right now, I'm going to choose the Michigan Panthers because they're closest to home.
That's fair. That's fair. Something that I watched in my home yesterday. NASCAR Bristol, baby. A lot more entertaining than last week's Phoenix that Christopher Bell ran away with. This week we saw Denny Hamlin win back-to-back at Bristol on concrete. Usually in the springtime, Bristol raced on dirt. And this year they took the dirt off and it was concrete. Enjoyable race from start to finish. Bristol's one of those places you look down at Instagram for a second and you look up and you're 70 laps further than you were just watching. But I know this is like my first year full on following NASCAR pretty heavily, but I guess I've been blessed. Griffin has let me know because that was one of the craziest races in NASCAR history for the fact that the tire tread situation that was happening. If you didn't know how NASCAR works, there's each track has kind of like 3 lanes that they like kind of have like divided into the track, and then depending on the track, a certain lane will run faster than the others. Well, here at Bristol, the middle lane definitely runs quicker than the bottom lane. So to compensate for that, they put resin on the bottom to try to give the bottom lane more of an equal advantage, and that was interesting, Griff.
Yeah, well, I was gonna take a drink of water, but I guess
you're
I'm
good.
not going to. Yeah, so the resin somehow messed with the Goodyear tires that they were using so much that by lap 300 out of 500, they didn't know if they were gonna have enough tires to finish the race. It was actually a pretty like common thinking that they were gonna have to red flag it, which would mean just postpone it to the next day because they didn't have any tires. But luckily, NASCAR gave them another set of tires that, and there was enough green flag laps where they didn't need any more. Yeah, so I mean, the whole idea of just making the tires go from 100 to 0 in 30 laps added for a lot of entertainment, a lot of lead changes, 54 to be exact. That is a NASCAR short track record. The closest up to that point was 40, so they definitely broke out of the record with this one. And they really emphasized pit strategy and saving tires. Most of the race, everyone was running like 70 to 80% throttle, or what they usually would, just because of how bad the tire situation was. So whoever, and it just so happened that Hamlin ended up with the fastest car and the best tire situation, and he basically just cruised the last 40 laps into winning his back-to-back Bristol concrete races. So people that didn't do so well, Byron hit the wall early, broke a toe link, he went 8 laps down in 35th place. That's not a really great finish for him. And then Logano continues to struggle. He's only had one top 10 finish in the first 5 or 6 races. That's definitely a big issue. Uh, there is enough time to salvage. Any given race, he could win. So I wouldn't count him out yet at all. But definitely weird to see him struggling early. And then next week, the first road course of the 2024 season, COTA. I think this is probably the first time they'll see a race with their road course package that they just introduced this year. I don't know. It could be good. It couldn't. We'll see. I mean, this season has been so weird to start that anything is pretty much possible here.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on. I know this isn't a common thing. I think the last time that this happened was 1996, maybe they said on the broadcast, but only 5 cars finished on the lead lap, which was crazy to think about in a 36 car race. Only 5 cars finished on the lead lap. I know it's a short track, but this usually doesn't happen, so I enjoyed it. It was fun to watch, and I'm not looking forward to the road course, if I'm going to be honest, so that sucks, but we'll hit it harder the next week.
It might surprise you. It might.
It might, but will it? Will it really?
Something that will surprise
March Madness, baby.
Yeah,
so,
you got it. There we go.
I'm still recovering from that hour and a half. Okay, so if you guys didn't know, Griffin, he's in Bristol. Great race, just talked about it. Now me, if you can tell right here, I am in Dayton. All right, first 4. Pretty much always played in Dayton. Right now they're converting the court from concrete over to the March Madness court. First 4 special, you know. You got teams like UVA, Colorado playing in it. Boise State's playing in it. Colorado State's playing in it. There's some good teams in it, all right? And I'm really looking forward to it. But we aren't just worried about the first 4. We're worried about everything. So if we switch over to the other scene.
Hey. Let's go.
Look at that first try. All right, so you guys might be wondering. Oh my God, I just spoiled
No,
it.
it's fine. No, you're good. No, let's start like that. No.
You want to start in and go out? I'm down. I'm low-key down.
No, let's do that.
Okay. So
let's
I didn't
spice it up a little bit. Let's make it a bit more interesting.
The usual people would start in the round of 64 and work their way out, as we did an hour ago. But we're actually going to do it the opposite. We're going to do the opposite because it's going to make it a little easier.
Let's just make it
I
more
would like to
different than
point
we
out
did 5 minutes
the
ago.
gray right here and the gray up here was not supposed to be there, but it was meant for 3 cameras. But obviously, our guest times are very important, and we did not want to take another hour out of his day. So next week he'll be back, but for right now you're gonna have to deal with the gray. Griff, let's start with your final. All right, this might shock a little group of people if they were unable to see the rest of your picks, but here you go.
All right. So, I got Kentucky winning it all. That might seem a little bit crazy considering that they're a 3 seed, but Kentucky's been here before. They just have the culture, a blue blood. They know how to win. It wouldn't shock me if they made this far. But I think a little more interesting is the UConn-Arizona matchup on the left here because I think this is going to be the best game of the tournament. Final 4, both of these teams, hungry, aggressive. They played good all year, and I think this is going to be cutthroat. I do have UConn winning, obviously, to make it into the championship game, and I just have Kentucky. And then Tennessee, I always have doing well. They're always just in the conversation. They're always a second or third seed that makes it a little bit. They kind of struggle once they get past the Sweet 16, but I'm thinking that they can finally make a Final Four appearance this year.
Yes. So I also was noticing this earlier. If you guys at home notice it, it might make you mad. But do you see the blue dots where you pick things?
Yeah, they're a little bit off.
They're not centered. That makes me so mad. But okay. Griffin, I like the picks. I want to talk now. I know I've said it about 30 times the last 2 hours, but Kentucky, in my opinion, has one of the deepest rosters in college basketball. And I think playing in the SEC, they have been inconsistent, but they have beat Alabama, dropping 117. They beat Tennessee 9 days ago. This is a team that has the pieces. They might not have the experience, and they might have not enough mature players on the roster, but I do think Kentucky could do this if they string together some good games. UConn, obviously, they're there. I like this pick, Griffin. There is no complaining here. I know that you're one of those guys that doesn't really want to go with the stigma of picking a 1 seed. So
Yeah.
I like it. Now, for you folks at home, this Final Four might look very similar because it's the same. Me and Griffin made these brackets probably 4 or 5 hours apart from each other. I did not see his bracket till about 30 minutes before we recorded the first time today. But yeah, it's a little interesting. I'm actually going to take the UConn number 1 seed stigma. UConn is a team that is 30-3, have dropped some games in the middle to first part of the year, have been solid towards the end. They are a team that just destroyed what some people call the best conference in college basketball right now. And if you look at it from a heavyweight standpoint, it is 100% the best conference in college basketball. And
sure.
UConn just dominated it. I'm taking UConn all the way. Arizona is a team that I think can beat a North Carolina team. The Caleb Love comeback. Tennessee, Dalton Connect. I touched on this earlier, but I think Dalton Connect coming into this year had no chance of being drafted in the NBA, and really his NBA dreams were not even a thing. Buddy, you have shot yourself up the draft boards, but the downfall to that is you're going to lose the national championship. And that's my thinking there.
Solid, man. Solid.
Let's kick it out to the Elite Eight.
All right.
Oh, well, I guess it's all mid. I guess it just goes like each division. So, we're going to go with bottom right of the Midwest.
All right. Okay. So, we do have a little bit of explaining to do here as well.
We do.
So, our brackets are literally probably
90% the same.
90% the same. But I have made some changes. That I was when we were going over it the first time we recorded, I did make some changes. They are not here, but I will tell you when I have made the changes. So, I have Tennessee over St. Peter's. I know St. Peter's is a...
They don't got Doug anymore, bro.
They're a team that a lot of people like to watch because they did make that Cinderella run with Doug. But that's not happening this year. Tennessee will take care of business. Texas, even if Virginia gets into that 10 seed, Texas will take care of business. Creighton should have no problem with Akron. And South Carolina is going to lose to Oregon, who is very hot after winning the Pac-12 Conference Championship. Where things get a little bit not what it is on the screen. I'm taking Creighton over Oregon, even though it says that I'm taking Oregon over Creighton. Creighton, I think, has been really good all year in the best division, or the best conference in basketball. So I do have Creighton taking Oregon. And then I have Tennessee taking Texas. Texas has been pretty decent, but Tennessee's just the way better team. And I am going to take Tennessee over Creighton, so I guess it doesn't really matter. Because Tennessee's going to go and beat Purdue in the Elite Eight.
Okay. My turn. Oh, wait. It's the same thing that's on your screen. Now, I know our Elite Eight at the top is kind of giving away what's happening in the other division. We did it the opposite earlier, but you know what? Sometimes opposite's best. All right. Oregon over South Carolina. South Carolina is a team that has lost by 40 this year. They have won by 40 this year. A team that has played in a very hard SEC, and it's just not like impressing me right now. Oregon, a team that just won the last Pac-12 championship. Now, I might have just said the Pac-12 is the worst conference in college basketball right now, but I don't care. Oregon wins that game. Creighton, Akron. Creighton, I touched on that. Creighton, record-wise, is the third best team in the Big East. Realistically, they are the second best team in the Big East, and I think they beat Creighton. I think they beat Marquette by a lot. I don't think there's that much of a gap. I mean, that much. I think there's a big gap between Creighton and Marquette. Marquette handles business against Akron, gets it done. Texas versus UVA or Colorado State. This one hurts me because, as we all are, I'm in several different groups with different brackets, and UVA is one of those teams that I consistently picked to beat Texas in those brackets, but I do have Texas handling business here. UVA has not been good against Quad 1 teams this year, and have just not been able to pick up those wins against the Dukes, the North Carolinas, the Wake Forest, for crying out loud, a team that didn't even make the tournament, the Clemsons. So yeah, no. Tennessee, St. Peter's. As Griffin said, no Doug. St. Peter's stands no chance. I mean, I'm sure they were said the exact same thing when they decided to knock off whoever they knocked off 2 years ago. Sorry. Phelan Dickerson's more in my head than St. Peter's. But yeah, Tennessee wins that. Tennessee dominates Texas. Dalton Connect is way better than Max Asmus or whoever Texas has on their roster. Tennessee wins.
True. That is true.
Now this is one, Creighton, Oregon. So I watched one Oregon game this year. I watched Oregon play Colorado in a game that my buddy had some money on, and he bet on Colorado, and Colorado got the job done in Oregon, in Eugene. But this is a different Oregon team. That might have been 2 weeks ago, but I think this is a different Oregon team. And Oregon beats Creighton, but loses to Tennessee because they are just not like that. Now, you guys might see in the top left that Purdue is not there for me. Kansas beats Kansas beats Purdue, but Tennessee beats Kansas because Dalton Connect is him, and the SEC is better than the Big 12 this year.
That's fair. Very true. Okay, so this is mine here.
This is the top of the Midwest.
Top Midwest here. Purdue, they're not going to do what they did last year. They will win. TCU, Utah State. This is a little bit interesting. I like the 9-8s because it's pretty much a 50-50, but I do like TCU. I watched a few games. Because I genuinely like Big 12 basketball. I think it's very defensive, and I think it's one of the best college basketball conferences. So I watched a few of theirs. They were pretty good. They took it to a few of the powerhouses, and I just saw they had a lot of fight. And I actually have no idea who Utah State is as a basketball program or as a team this year, so I'm just taking TCU. I'm actually going to take McNeese State over Gonzaga. I know it says Gonzaga is over them, but
it's getting changed right when we stop recording, it'll be fine.
It is getting changed. It will get changed. Gonzaga has kind of not been themselves. They kind of got recency biased, or just the fact that they're Gonzaga into a 5th seed, even though they did not win their conference tournament or didn't really much in their conference in general. I'm just going to say that McNeese have a great coach. They play really well. They dominated their conference. I'm going to take them over Gonzaga. But they're going to lose to Kansas, who beat Samford, because Samford's not going to do anything. So then I have Kansas beating McNeese. And then I'm going to have Purdue beat TCU, but TCU is going to give them one hell of a fight, and I think the refs are going to make Purdue win that game. So then you're going to have Kansas and Purdue, and this one is a 50-50. I don't know if I'll change this one or not. It could go either way. It really just depends on what teams show up. Because of Kansas's struggles with injuries, I'm going to take Purdue, but it would not shock me if either or happens.
Respect. My Midwest. Okay. So as you know, like our brackets look a lot alike, but Griffin's making some changes, and I ain't making changes, but I'm gonna speak my truth. Purdue beats Middle Tennessee State or Grambling State. It's not going to be even close. This isn't a Fairleigh Dickerson situation. Zach Edey is more mature. They brought in another wing. They are more mature at the point guard position. Purdue wins this. TCU Utah State. I only care about two teams in the state of Utah, and that is the Utah Utes and the BYU Cougars. All right. I don't care about any other teams in the state of Utah. So Utah State, I'll never even watch a game. Right. I might watch this TCU game, but I'm so confident in TCU winning this game that I don't even think I'm going to bat an eye. I think I have better games to watch at 9:55 p.m. on March 22nd. All right.
Harsh.
Next up, Gonzaga McNeese State. McNeese. Why do I keep saying McNeese State, bro? I keep getting Morehead State, the M's, whatever.
Yeah.
Gonzaga. Gonzaga is winning this game. Now, I have our college basketball half insider that we had in here earlier picked McNeese. McNeese is a team that has Will Wade as their head coach, a team that has a former Power 5 head coach on there, a team that had 3 wins last year and now have 30 wins. And Griffin talked about how Gonzaga might have been given the 5 seed, and I'm going to talk on that too. According to our college basketball half insider, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to keep saying that. That's going to get annoying. But Gonzaga was not even good enough to win the regular season title in the WCC. They were not good enough to win the conference tournament title in the WCC. And the team that swept the WCC was St. Mary's, who is a 5 seed. So you're going to sit here and tell me that Gonzaga is worth a 5 seed? I think not. This is more like a 10-7 matchup, and McNeese State has a very legitimate shot of winning this game, but I'm taking Gonzaga. Kansas, I'm not even going to talk about Samford. All right, Kansas beats Gonzaga. Gonzaga, I'm sorry. I don't even know if you're going to make it to the round of 32. You're not making it to the Sweet 16. Purdue TCU. I think this could be a really close game. Griffin did not touch on it this time, but he talked about earlier about how he thinks that this TCU game might come down to the very end and Purdue gets bailed out.
Yes.
Could see it happening. I really could see it happening.
Happen. No, that will happen, I promise.
Now, the next part is where statistics are put aside. Actually watching the game is put aside, and your knowledge of what happens in March, that stays in March, gets brought back to the front of your brain. All right. Kansas, a team everyone wants to play right now. They struggled to end the season, but they got 2 legitimate big men that can go play. They have guards that can go out there. They have shooters, right? They've had a long break, right? They're going to be ready to go. And Purdue is not allowed to make it to the Elite 8. It's just not how March works. Purdue is the Cowboys. They get given good playoff seeds, and then they choke. So Purdue has to lose to one of these teams in the upper part of the region. And Kansas is that team. Kansas, I think, has the big men to go out there and beat them. They have the strength to go out there and beat them. And that's overkill, dude. Fairleigh Dickerson beat them with nothing. And I think Bill Self will go up there and he's going to win against Matt Pater. It's just going to happen. All right?
Yeah, I mean, nothing wrong with it. I mean, it looks the exact same as mine before the changes, but yeah, I mean, I see the vision here. I see it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. On to the South region.
Okay. So this one, I'm not going to change because I'm very confident. This is the most confident division I have. This part of the bracket, very interesting, very very fun games. So you got Marquette and Western Kentucky. Obviously, Marquette's going to take that one. Florida is going to beat whoever wins the play-in game between Boise State and Colorado. Kentucky will take care of business versus Oakland, obviously, because I have them winning it all. And then NC State, who won the ACC tournament out of nowhere. They're going to keep that momentum going versus Texas Tech, and they're going to beat them as an 11 seed. So then you have set up Marquette, Florida, Kentucky, NC State. Marquette has been very inconsistent. I I'd say probably the most inconsistent 2 seed in the tournament. Uh, the tournament or the conference they play in. I've seen them drop games to pretty much everyone in their conference,
But to Paul.
but to Paul. And that was Villanova, but um, yeah, DePaul is what
0-20 in
0-20
conference
in
play.
conference play. Yeah, that's horrible. So yeah, I don't have a lot of faith in Marquette. I just think they're all talk, no game, especially in this tournament. And I'm gonna take Florida because Florida actually gave it to Kentucky and Tennessee. So any given day in the March Madness. And then I'm gonna take Kentucky over NC State. I think their ACC run ends there. Obviously, Kentucky I just think is gonna get it done. And then I got Kentucky over Florida. Florida actually beat Kentucky earlier on, but Kentucky is a second half team. They're gonna get it together. It's the tournament, and they're gonna go and beat Houston, which we'll look at after this one.
What an SEC matchup in the Sweet 16. That's fire.
Yeah,
All
that's
right,
what I thought.
my turn to go to the South Division. Sometimes it just happens like that. NC State, Griffin could not have put it best. On fire right now. I'm sorry, Texas Tech, but it just had to be you. North Carolina State going for their 6th win in a row, knocking off Texas Tech. Next up, Oakland versus Kentucky. I already talked about how Kentucky is the most deepest team in college basketball, blah, 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 blah. Not going to bore you with that. Kentucky wins. This next one. I have not watched a Florida Gator game this year. I'm going to be honest. But you know what's weird? I've watched a Boise State basketball game this year. I've watched a Colorado basketball game this year.
You can blame that on sports betting.
Nuh-uh. But, okay.
What do you mean, nuh-uh? You just talked about the friend that you were talking about with the Colorado.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just because I live with the guy that does it doesn't mean I do, bro. Get out of here.
Same as you. I'm just saying because it's sports betting.
Boise State, Colorado win this. And then Marquette beats Western Kentucky. All right, I talked about this. Western Kentucky does not belong in March Madness. Colgate, Charleston, Wagner, Middle Tennessee State are more relevant basketball programs than Western Kentucky, and it baffles me that they're there. Marquette wins that, though. Marquette goes on, loses. I don't care if it's to Florida. I don't care if it's to Boise State or Colorado. They lose their second-round game. NC State, I'm sorry it had to happen. This ain't the ACC tournament. You ain't beating Kentucky. Kentucky wins. Kentucky goes on in dominant fashion. I don't care if it is Marquette, Florida, Boise State, Colorado. They're getting out of this and going to the Elite Eight no matter what. This part of the bracket, if I was a Kentucky fan, other than Florida, I am so happy. They have one of the easiest 3 seed to Sweet 16 runs like you could have right now, and I am all for it. Go Wildcats. Yeah. And then, as you can see at the top, Houston, Kentucky. Houston is a team that plays really good defense. And I'll touch on this a second with Duke at the top, but I think Kentucky has the weapons to break whatever defense Houston throws at them. Because Houston playing in the Big 12, like teams like Iowa State, they have an offense. Teams like Kansas, Baylor, TCU, they have good offenses, but it ain't an SEC offense. These FCC offenses are actually insane this year. So that's where I'm sitting at with that right now.
So let's take it to the top.
Oh, this one's crazy, dude. Just kidding.
So, Houston, going to take care of Longwood. Never even heard of that before. Nebraska and Texas A&M. I like Texas A&M. They actually beat Kentucky as well. Texas A&M can hold their own. And a very inconsistent SEC, they were one of the most consistent. They beat a lot of good teams, and their losses were close. And Nebraska, I just thought they were one of the weaker Big Ten teams that I've watched, and I just don't think they can handle the SEC offense that Texas A&M has. And then Wisconsin, James Madison, the Barstool matchup. I do have Wisconsin winning this one. I don't think it'll be close. Wisconsin coming off a pretty good Big Ten run in the conference tournament. They should have enough momentum to beat James Madison. I know James Madison has a lot of good wins on the resume, including Michigan State, but their run ends here. I'm gonna have Duke over Vermont. That shouldn't even be close.
No.
And I'm gonna take Wisconsin over Duke. Duke, I just think this year has been weird. They've been in the news for a lot of the wrong reasons. I don't really see them as a team that'll make it far, and I just think Wisconsin is going to keep running it up after their run in the conference turn. And then I got Houston beating Texas A&M. I don't think that'll be close. They have the defense for it. And then I have Houston beating Wisconsin. I think they're still run to it's not even a still run.
It's a 5 seed. It's not bad.
But their run comes to an end.
I like this, Griffin. I agree with the Wisconsin picks and the James Madison. I'll talk about in a second. A&M Nebraska, I think, is a coin flip. If I had to choose the coin flip one way, I think A&M would be where it leaned, just because of A&M's success in the SEC tournament compared to Nebraska's. And then the 4-1 seed, those are pretty much given. A 2-year-old could pick that. Heading over to my West. Houston, obviously I'm not going to talk about it. I'll talk more in depth about Houston when I get in there to the Sweet 16. Nebraska over A&M. I just talked about how this is a one that could go either way, and the odds would probably favor A&M more. But I'm going to go with Nebraska. I'm going to ride with the Big Ten. Being a Buckeye fan, I want to see all but one team in the Big Ten succeed. And I'm going to go with Nebraska here. I don't think if A&M or Nebraska gets out of this, they even stand a chance against Houston. But an A&M Houston kind of throwdown with College Station being just outside of Houston, I think would actually be really huge for Western Texas. Like, I couldn't imagine the atmosphere down there at College Station and Houston. It would be pretty crazy. Next up, Wisconsin, James Madison. I don't think you could have said it any better with James Madison. A team with quad 1 wins. I mean, they beat a Michigan State team at the beginning of the year that we have seen struggle, but always works their way into the tournament. They won their conference championship, but boo-hoo, I do not care. Wisconsin's a team that just knocked off Purdue, played Illinois pretty hard, shot 58% from 3 in their opening game in the Big Ten tournament against Maryland or Rutgers, one of the two, and beat a Northwestern team too. This is a team that's playing really hot right now. And then Duke, Vermont. That's all I gotta say. Okay. Houston, Nebraska. I already talked about Houston's beating A&M or Nebraska no matter what. Wisconsin, Duke. This is the one that hits harder for me to pick, because if there was a team in the top part of the bracket that could beat Houston, I think it would be Duke. And I think Wisconsin could give them a run for their money, but I think it would be Duke. The reason being, I said about somebody earlier. Oh, I talked about Houston and Kentucky, about Kentucky could beat whatever Houston threw at them. And I think Duke has enough playmakers with McCain and Proctor and Filipowski to go and beat a Houston team. But to do that, you have to get through Wisconsin, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think Wisconsin shoots the 3-ball too good. And I mean, if you look back at the North Carolina game for Duke, North Carolina shot the 3-ball so well, and that's really what just gave them the lead and won the game for them. So Wisconsin there. Wisconsin loses to Houston. The Cougars are just better than the Badgers, and that's my South. That's my South region.
Same as mine.
On to the West.
Here's the West Division. This one's kind of a bit of a snoozer, in my opinion. You just have a few games that I think are not even going to be questioned here. I'm going to take New Mexico over Clemson. This is one that our guest was very high on. Clemson struggled in the ACC, and New Mexico, I just think, is coming off a pretty hot streak right now. I think they'll take care of business. Baylor obviously will take care of Colgate. Colgate always gets in here as a 13, 14 seed. It always gets bounced, and I don't see that changing. I'm actually going to change my Dayton, Nevada. I will be picking Nevada instead of Dayton. I think Dayton, I saw too much inconsistency from them to beat a 10 seed, and I think Nevada is going to do well. Dayton did not beat anyone in the 67 field of teams in this tournament, and I don't think that's going to change. I think they're going to lose to Nevada, and then I'm going to have Arizona State or Arizona over Long Beach State. It's just one of those 2-5 scenarios. I don't see Arizona losing that at all. And then I'm going to take Arizona over Nevada. That should be pretty straightforward. Just a better team. And then Baylor, New Mexico. New Mexico's run ends. And then for Arizona Baylor, I'm going to take Arizona. I just think Arizona has the better team, the more
Yeah, I'd agree.
power, and I just think they play more consistent. So I'm going to take Arizona there. And then Arizona beats North Carolina, if you can see the top right.
Yeah, I like this. The New Mexico pick is one that is definitely like the most likely upset as of right now. But yeah, I'm digging it. You can take your Nevada pick. That just makes our brackets a little different.
I think this one might be the exact same, right?
This one was the exact
It
same.
was the exact same.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
So, all right, Griffin already talked about New Mexico State over Clemson. As I talked about, it's the number one most likely upset to happen right now according to the odds. Clemson's a team that did lost a couple games down the stretch in ACC play, and then also lost their opening round game in the ACC tournament. A team that I think is really fraudulent. 16 seed is nice. I think a TCU team is better, and they're sitting there at a 9 seed. So it is what it is. Next up, Baylor Colgate. Griffin again could not have said it best. Colgate is a team that is always in the NCAA tournament, but always gets pounced early and really never even gives a showing, never even sniffs the round of 32. So Baylor wins that. Baylor's a team that's played in a good conference all year. It's kind of been overshadowed by Houston and Kansas and Iowa State. Next up, Dayton, Nevada. If you didn't catch what Griffin said, it was that Dayton has not beat a single one of the teams out of the 67 teams left in the field if you take them out of it, which is kind of
Not
insane,
great.
but I guess it makes sense. No more. There's only one or two Atlantic 10 teams that, one other Atlantic 10 team that made the tournament. Uh, Duquesne, and Dayton lost to Duquesne in the regular season, and Dayton did not play that strong of a non-conference schedule. So it makes sense, but Nevada, you're just too happy, dude. Like, Vegas is pushing the odds for you so much, and someone's about to make bank on Dayton. Arizona, Long Beach State. This is a hard one to pick. It's not, actually. It's Arizona, but Long Beach State, developing story. Coach of 17 years gets fired before conference tournament. He turns around and flips the middle finger at him, wins the conference tournament, and now they're letting him coach the NCAA tournament. It's a team that's going to have grit behind them. They've beat USC this year, but Arizona is just better. Caleb Love is better. And then Caleb Love takes that and goes and beats Dayton. This one should be a free win for Arizona, but you never know. New Mexico State, the Lobos. The Lobos were flying, but they ain't there no more. Baylor wins. And then Baylor, Arizona. This one, looking at the seeding, like if this was Kentucky, Arizona, it would be so much harder. Um, but I think Baylor just has this on. Arizona just has Baylor's number by so much. This might not even be a close game, in my opinion. And then if you see at the top right, my Elite Eight matchup for the West region, North Carolina, Arizona. This is the Caleb Love comeback game, revenge game, you may say. And this is going to be what propels Arizona into the Final Four. And yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, same thing, pretty much. I think just some of the very beginning ones are pretty predictable. I think.
Yeah.
In the past, you've seen a lot of like toss ups.
Mhm.
Like last year, shit was nuts. You
I
couldn't
mean,
predict a single thing that happened.
yeah,
It was
West
crazy.
West region, number one seed goes down last year. It's just you can't predict that.
No, not at all. So for this part of the West region, North Carolina is going to take advantage of whoever plays. It doesn't matter who; they're going to win. And then Michigan State, I think, has the advantage over Mississippi State just because of the coach who is with Michigan State. And then again, it's just some of that Big Ten. I think they were better in the Big Ten, and Mississippi State very inconsistent. So that's where my thought process is going for that. And then actually, I have an upset here: Grand Canyon over St. Mary's. Like we said, St. Mary's actually won the regular season in the WCC, and I just don't think that division or that conference this year is any good. I think Grand Canyon is going to take advantage of it, and I think they're going to have an upset in the first round.
I like that pick a lot.
And then I have Alabama over Charleston. That one should not be close. So then you have a weird situation where you have North Carolina and Michigan State, and if it was not 2024, this would be a hell of a matchup. But it is 2024, and North Carolina should win this. Alabama, they're going to have a really good path to the Sweet 16. They should take care of business at 13 and a 12 seed. And then North Carolina, Alabama. Honestly, I could see Alabama putting up some sort of fight, but I don't. I think North Carolina is too solid, and I think they're going to win it.
Yeah. I like your Grand Canyon pick a lot, actually. Grand Canyon coming out of, I think, the ACE. No, it's not the ASUN, but they're coming out of one of those lower mid-major conferences. They're playing super hot right now. And St. Mary's, like as you said, the WCC has not been great this year. I don't really know a time where a conference like that Gonzaga usually always wins and dominates in, that the WCC champion wasn't a top 3 or 4 seed. It's kind of weird to see him there at 5, but I can agree with that a lot. Alabama, if you're an Alabama fan, I think this is exactly what you want. You want Griffin's bracket, other than you want Alabama beating North Carolina, obviously, but you want to see that 13 seed and you want to see that 12 seed, so that's good.
Yeah, for sure.
On to mine. Looks a little similar, but I am going to take St. Mary's. So we'll start at the top. North Carolina, the Tar Heels, in my opinion, probably the second best team favorite-wise to win this tournament. I know there's teams like Tennessee, Iowa State, Houston, and Kentucky as well, and Auburn that could compete for that, but I really do like this Tar Heel team, and I think they're playing really good. And as Griffin mentioned, you can't go against Tom Izzo in March. I know I'm going to in the next round, but there's no way that Tom Izzo basically uses his celebrity status in the basketball world to put his team into March Madness, and he doesn't win a game. I just don't think that he's that type of guy. He's going to go out there and they're going to compete and they're going to win.
Yeah.
Next up, St. Mary's, Grand Canyon. I did just talk about how Grand Canyon's been playing high. I just don't see a world where the WCC champion doesn't get out of the first round. I mean, it really is just St. Mary's and Gonzaga every year. And St. Mary's has had a couple good runs in the past, but I think that they'll make it out of this round unscathed. And then Alabama playing the 13 seed Charleston. Yeah, I really don't think Charleston's worth anything in basketball world. If you fill out brackets every year like we do, Charleston's like a Colgate is always there, but doesn't win. Actually, I'm pretty sure this is the 4th year in a row that Charleston has made it. Charleston was also the number 1 team last year to make a run, and they got bounced in the first round. So they're going to move on. Alabama will. And then Alabama, a team that has been so inconsistent this year. They've lost to teams. They've had some bad non-conference losses. They don't have a Brandon Miller like they did last year. They're going to lose to St. Mary's. I'm really just riding with the West Coast on that one, and I don't think Alabama's that great of a basketball school. Last, we're going to get through it. North Carolina over Michigan State. Can't say anything about it. Hubert Davis, you're going to have your boys ready. RJ Davis, number 55. Baycott. You guys are going to be ready, and you're going to go ball out. And then North Carolina over St. Mary's. I think this is very, very easy to look at and see that that's going to happen, so I don't think I need to go in depth on that one that much.
Nope. I think this is
Or
a pretty weak division.
yeah,
Or
I would agree.
I think it's probably the
Um,
weakest.
someone like a Baylor, if you look back at the Baylor, uh, there's just so many weak teams on this part of the
Yeah.
bracket that Arizona is basically gifted it. So, yep, I think this is definitely the weakest division, but we'll move on to the East Division. Last division, oh, nope, sorry. Not the East Division. Might be, let me fix this. It is the East Division. East Division 2, Griff.
All right. So this one I made a few changes as well. So BYU is actually they're fine. They will beat Duquesne in the first round. Illinois should take care of business versus Morehead State. Washington State is going to get upset by Drake. Drake, they're coming off of a pretty hot end of the season. Washington State, obviously, like I said, played in the weak Pac-12, and I just think
Yeah.
Drake's gonna have their number in the first round. And then I'm gonna take Iowa State over South Dakota State. That should be pretty simple. That shouldn't be a very close game at all. And then even though BYU has had a pretty hot season this year, I'm gonna take Illinois. I think Illinois is the better team. They played in a harder division. I don't know.
I
I don't
mean,
know. Big
BYU's
12
in the Big
is
12
my
now, so
yeah.
it's kind of hard to adjust that. But Illinois just won the Big Ten championship, so I'd give them the nod.
Okay. And then Iowa State's gonna take care of Drake. And then Iowa State and Illinois. So this one is probably my second pick for the game of the tournament, if it happens. Because these two teams are going to battle. Both of these teams have fairly good defenses, and they have a pretty good offense as well. Very balanced. It's a back and forth to me. I think I'm gonna go with Iowa State. I like what Iowa State did in the Big 12. They did win against Kansas. They did win against Houston. In the championship game for the Big 12, they beat Houston by 28. That is massive, and I can't look past that. So I'm gonna have Iowa State beat Illinois, and then I'm gonna have UConn beat Iowa State in the Elite Eight.
Yeah. Nothing I'll touch on here. I mean, I know mine is literally identical, what I'm about to bring up to what this is here, but you did go with Iowa State over Illinois, so there'll be a little difference there. But I have a little bit more to talk about regarding some of the other teams in this division. Region. Okay, so as you can tell, we had the exact same thing. BYU, I've watched them play against an Iowa State team in Iowa at Iowa State. Um, Iowa State actually finished undefeated this year at home, and BYU walked in there and held them to their word there for a little bit, but Iowa State got the win. BYU wins that with ease. Illinois, Morehead State. Illinois just basically got there. The Shannon carried them through the Big Ten tournament. Dropped, I think, 125 points in 3 games. Big Ten record for points in a game. He's balling right now. He's gonna win that. He's gonna go and he's gonna go beat BYU too. I just don't see a world where BYU is sitting in the Sweet 16. It's just not something that I can comprehend in my head really.
That's fair.
An upset we both took at 10-7. Drake, a team that just knocked out Indiana State from playing in March Madness. An Indiana State team that was basically a lock. Now are sitting as the 1 seed in the NIT. But Drake is playing really well. Their men's and women have both made it to the tournament, and like I'm definitely gonna pick Drake to win this, and Drake is definitely them. Wazoo is a team that has struggled. I mean, they lost to Washington in the year. They lost in the Pac-12 championship. So whatever it is, I'm on Drake on that one. And then Iowa State, South Dakota State. I wish South Dakota State was not a 15 seed, maybe a 13 or 12. I would definitely have taken them. They're a team that is one of the best smaller mid-majors, small major schools, and I really feel bad, but Iowa State's so good. Like, they deserve a 1 seed. If I was on the committee, North Carolina or Purdue definitely would have been in the hot seat there, and Houston as well. To really get bumped out, I think UConn was the only unanimous 1 seed
Yeah.
out of the 4. and then Iowa State hands it to Drake, and then Iowa State's run gets ended by Illinois. Um, this is one that I really don't like. The more I've talked about it, I've talked about it now for 3 hours, and I really don't like it. But it doesn't matter because whoever wins that goes and loses to UConn, and UConn go pack your bags because they're going home.
I think this part of um, the East, you're screwed if you ended up in here if your name is
Yeah.
not Illinois or Iowa. No matter if you're Drake and you beat Washington State, or if you're Duquesne and beat BYU, you're gonna lose to either Iowa State or Illinois. I think the Iowa State and Illinois matchup is destined to happen, and I think it's gonna be a great game. And whoever wins that is unfortunately gonna lose to UConn. But I think that losing to UConn, which in your case would be the eventual winner is
Yeah.
not too bad of a season.
No.
Then
And
at
it's a
all.
UConn team that's the defending national champs that have been unstoppable all year, so I wouldn't be too upset with losing to them. But speaking of UConn, the last section of the bracket, the top part of the East region, yeah, send it away.
All right, so UConn versus Stetson. UConn. No other words for that. FAU and Northwestern. So Northwestern was one of the pretty good teams in the Big Ten this year.
Four
They
seed.
lost to Wisconsin.
Yeah.
They lost to Wisconsin, who was the eventual
Runner
runner-up.
up.
So that's not too bad of a loss for them. And FAU didn't have the greatest year. I think some of the recency bias of what happened to them last year kind of got them in this 8 seed spot. I do see Northwestern being the better team and taking it. Um, South Diego State. They always have a good team. They're always in consideration. They got one hell of a defense. I don't know much about UAB, to be honest with you. So that's why I went with San Diego State, because I just knew them. And then I have Auburn over Yale. I don't see this being a close game.
No, not even close.
Not at all. It's a bunch of Ivy schools, and I think Auburn is going to show them that academics isn't always the answer. And then I have UConn beating Northwestern, shouldn't be close. And then I have Auburn beating San Diego State. That could be close, but I'm not going to say it is because I think Auburn winning their
Yeah.
conference championship is too good for that, and they'll go on to lose to UConn in the Sweet 16.
Yeah. Yeah. I just realized something when going through this that I did not notice earlier. How the heck did the East Division get put with 3 Power 6 winners? 3 of the Power 6 conferences champions are in this division.
That is
FAU,
true.
a defending Final Four team. San Diego State, a defending Final Four team.
And Yale.
Yeah, and Yale. But then you also throw in an Illinois who has had Sweet 16 runs the last couple years. If I don't, this might not be the most star-powered all the way around flawless division like some of like the other one, which would be the South. I'm pretty sure is what we called. But this one is definitely one that'd be fun to watch. UConn Stenson, I'm not even going to talk about it. Stenson, I'm sorry. No. FAU Northwestern. This is one that was hard for me to pick. FAU, a team that made it to the Final Four last year, didn't lose much. Coach is now up for a lot of jobs. A lot of people want him to be coaching at a Power 6 school next year, but Northwestern wins this. Boo Booey kind of carries Northwestern in this one. Northwestern's a 4 seed in the Big Ten. They picked up wins against Purdue this year, and I think they win that one. Not with ease, but as Griffin said, I think FAU is just a team that they lost to a lot of quad one. Not that. That's not what I was trying to say, but we were talking about it earlier. They lost a lot of quad 3 games this year, and that's just not something that I really think is something they can continue to do. Next one, my first upset of the tournament would be San Diego State and UAB. UAB, University of Alabama Birmingham, is a team that just flew through their conference championship and have been playing so well all year. I think they rank top in offense defensive efficiency total combined, like top 10. And it's a team that I really feel could knock off a San Diego State team that's really known for their defense and not so much for their offense. San Diego State was a team last year that all of their tournament games really came down to the wire, so I don't see another reason this wouldn't happen. And then Auburn Yale, it's not even going to talk about it. Auburn wins that one. UConn Northwestern. Northwestern just does not have the size to compete with a powerhouse like UConn, and UConn moves on. And then UAB as well. I just don't think that they have the powerhouse and the star power to compete against an Auburn team that is absolutely on a heater right now. All right, Auburn UConn. This one is hard for me. I actually have Auburn beating UConn in another bracket at this stage. Auburn and Iowa State, I actually would say Auburn has the best shot of beating UConn in this region, and then Iowa State would be right below them. I think Auburn has the size more to compete with UConn than Iowa State does. Iowa State just has the playmakers that can go out there and score a bucket. But Auburn loses this, but I would not be surprised if it was a close game. This might even be, if UConn really does go on to win the whole thing, this might be one of the closest games they had the whole entire tournament.
For sure.
Yes, sir.
I mean, nothing really else to say about this side. I think it's pretty set in stone that UConn, Illinois, and Iowa State will do well. It just depends on who makes it out.
Yep. It's time for the best game in the world. Booth seats, booth battles. Second time run through this. Hopefully my energy's been up enough. But we did have a guest pick this week, like you would see on College Game Day. I'm not going to say his picks, but I will mention that next week when we have him on, I'll just take whatever his best week was and make that his total record, because I do feel bad because some of his picks were pretty good. But we'll start out with what the recap was. Last week I laid an egg and did not do well, but this week I tried to bring it back and did not do that well. I had 600 points. Griffin had 600. He went 6-2. I went 5-3. I had another underdog. My underdogs hit this week, but my favorites did not, which kind of sucks. But Griffin's beating me 4,000 to 3,500. I really need a push. I actually was going to mention that we just do every 100 points for each win in the first round of the bracket, but that wouldn't have mattered because we have literally almost every single pick the exact same, so not going to worry about it. Griffin, start us off in the National Basketball Association.
Will do, sir. I'm just feeling the Magic tonight. I'm going to take the Magic over the Pelicans.
Magic in the air?
Yeah. They both have the same, around the same record. The Magic have really overperformed this season, and I think they're going to get another win against a pretty good opponent in the Pelicans. And then I'm going to take the Pacers over the Warriors. The Pacers are not favored. Tyrese Halliburton has not played that well since the All-Star break, and the Pacers have some injuries in the bench that have kind of put them on a little bit of a skid, and the Warriors have been playing really well, but I see the Pacers turning it around, and that should give me 200 points.
Yeah, I like it. I also have Magic Pelicans, but not in the same way. I have Pelicans over Heat. The Miami Heat have been playing great since the All-Star break. The addition of Terry Rozier has been really great for that team, and Terry Rozier took a second to get the Heat culture, but he's got it down, and he's really firing on all cylinders right now. But Zion Williams is living up to the hype that we all really gave him out of high school and out of Duke. He is playing great. Brandon Ingram's playing great. CJ McCollum's playing great. And I really don't have anything bad to say about the Pelicans right now. The Pelicans are a team that are actually the 5 or 6 seed in the West. Something I would have never imagined with how stacked the West is. I could imagine them as like a 9 or 10 seed, 8 seed at best. But really kudos to them, and I think they go through and win this game. And then the next one in the association, I'm going Kings over Magic. The Magic actually have more wins than the Kings, and if you would have told me in September that the Magic were going to have more wins than the Kings in mid-March, I would have laughed at you. But Paulo Banchero got them boys rolling, but they got to play the best player in the NBA since the All-Star break, Domantas Sabonis. and De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk and Keegan Murray and Harrison Barnes, and I can just go on. That Kings team is really good. They just play in a really tough division, so I'm taking the Kings on that one. And we're gonna throw it over to the NCAA basketball women's.
The women's, yeah. So the women's we don't do often, but since it's a tournament, we're just gonna throw them a bone and look at some of them. So unlike the men's Marquette, the women's Marquette got them dogs. They're gonna beat Ole Miss, and I think Marquette's the 10 seed, so they shouldn't be the underdog. And then I have Utah over South Dakota State. Utah is a 5th seed. They just know how to get it done, and they'll win over South Dakota State.
Yeah, so the women's tournament, I did watch the whole selection show. I was watching NASCAR during the men's tournament, but of course my Buckeyes were not in it, so I didn't care that much to watch it. I just cared to analyze it afterwards. But the women's one, I watched the whole thing, and one that really stuck out to me right off the rip was Florida State over Alabama. I really don't have any knowledge about either team. It's just one that when I looked at it, I really thought the Seminoles could go and beat the Crimson Tide. And I think that this one is very doable. It's a 9-8 matchup, so it's not really that big of an underdog. And I think this is definitely doable. A team I do know a lot about is Kansas State. This is a team that beat Iowa early in the year, sat in the top 10 for a while throughout a lot of the year. Didn't play the best basketball when it came to the Big 12 championship, but I'm taking them over Portland. Portland's a team I think that won 2 games in March last year and actually made it to the Sweet 16. But Kansas State for sure, 100%.
All right, so taking it over to the men's tournament. We already pretty much said why we picked who we picked, so I'm not going to give any explanation. But I'm taking Michigan State over Mississippi State, and then I'm going to take Oregon over South Carolina.
Yeah, so obviously I'm riding Drake, so Drake over Wazoo 100%. And then TCU over Utah State. Again, I talked about how I don't really give anything about, I don't give a crap about the whole state of Utah or Alabama or Michigan. So TCU wins that one. NASCAR time, baby.
So then I got NASCAR, the last one of the episode. It's at a road course, and a lot of different players can be good at road courses, but the ones that have stayed pretty consistent, I'm going to take Chase Elliott. He's pretty good at road courses. He has the best average finish out of any current NASCAR driver at road courses. And then another one that has won his fair share at road courses, Michael McDowell. He should do well if they qualify. Well.
Yeah, I'm going with the guy in the slump right now. I'm going with Joey Logano. He really needs points, and you can't keep shooting yourself in the foot and expect to do something in the end. So I think he really needs a good placement. I think he needs a really good pole, and then we'll see where it goes from there. And then Tyler Reddick, out of current racers on the Cup Series, he ranks 4th in average placement, and he did not have a great week this week in the Monster Car, but I do think that him and his team really bring it to COTA and really get it done.
Alrighty,
That's all we
that's
got.
it, man.
Sorry if it wasn't the highest energy. We just filmed for 3 hours straight. But thank you guys for watching. Episodes go out every Tuesday at 11:30. We appreciate you. See ya.